overcame it? Thank you.
Thank you, Danny. A question for you, Shaji. Challenge you had at work and how you overcame it.
Challenge we as a company faced was the phenomena of all these fires happening in the country, where our core business cladding as an industry was at risk. So there was this thought process going on where the cladding is a flammable material. It's a risky material to have in the cladding, and there should be some kind of a ban on the product itself. So we dealt with that, and we dealt with that by bringing in new technologies, bringing in the fire-rated panels, awareness, right from working from the authorities. And today, we're very happy to say that the building code of the national regulation, the UE Fire Code, has been amended, and the cladding industry is now considered as a safe product. So that's been the approach. I hope you have answered your question.
My name is Almasa. I'm a brand strategy advisor. I would like to know what is your next step and how do you see your expansion globally, if you have any other targets than the continent Javier mentioned.
If I understand your question, you're saying what's the next step for Mulk Holdings?
Yes.
As part of our expansion program?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
And globally speaking also, not only
Sure,
locally
of course.
speaking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
If you take the cladding business, which is a core business, now we are expanding in terms of increasing our network around the world. And also, I mean, it's just a matter of coincidence that today we entered into corporate identity programs. Means international brands like the Jaguars and the Land Rovers have this program of refurbishing the entire showrooms around the world. So we're focusing on that kind of programs. And then that's on the building industry. Bringing in the highest technologies into fire-rated composites. That's another expansion. On the healthcare, we are expanding the existing businesses. So most of our companies now are more or less on the growth path. And the latest, we've also gone into F&B. We've taken the Hardee's food chain into India and Africa. So just a few of them that are part of expansion plans.
Thank you. Do you also target, for instance, the American market or some?
Beg your pardon?
Do you also target the American market or the other continents that you mentioned? Because you mentioned China, for instance, which is definitely an emerging market. But do you visualize an expansion elsewhere?
Yeah, our focus will now be in the North American, South American markets. This focus will come into play because the company has just won the contract to do the Jaguar and the Land Rover showrooms all over the world. And then so it gives us an incentive. We already have hundreds of showrooms in North America and South America. So we'll move in there as the business to execute. And then that's going to be the next expansion program here.
Hi, good evening. My name is Asif. You're already into panels, alico-borne panels, and solar energy. How difficult it is to combine both these so that you have solar panels, incorporated in your alico panels, so that you have a lot of area covered up for the buildings.
Yeah. Technologies on a facade of a building is a mature technology now, because you do have self-laminating solar panels, which you actually paste on part of the facade, and you can have the solar energy production on that. So yes, to answer your question, the existing cladding can be turned into a solar energy producing panels as well.
So when will that be available then?
It's available in the world market. Only thing is we don't do that because we don't manufacture those thin film solar panels, but technology is available. For us, you see, our value in the solar energy comes more from not the photovoltaic panels, but more from the parabolic trough technologies. But now this is a technology where you use mirrors to reflect sun onto a settled tube. So we have this is more for mass project like megawatt size projects. The photovoltaic, as you know, can be small. You can power a home or partial building. So we don't actually do photovoltaic. We do the thermal solar actually.
Thank you.
I'm just curious to know, what is your take on how we can better harness solar energy here in the UAE? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? This keeps coming up in discussions. I hear mixed feedback from people I talk to in the industry saying we could be doing so much more, but the pace of change is moving slower than they would like. What is your take on that?
I think if you take globally, the success of the solar program comes from a government policy to incentivize and encourage investors. Now the UAE lacks from a firm solar policy. Now if you take India, now any investor can go put up the solar project and the government would buy the power back at a certain rate, basically. I think once that comes in, and then the investors will be encouraged. Now at the moment, the UAE government are doing a lot. There are a lot of programs where the government directly is installing solar projects. But then once you bring an incentivized program where the investor makes money, that's where the real growth of any program comes in. I think that's where we like.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Evelyn Farah. As a boss, do you consider yourself to be tough or are you a soft touch? What do you expect from your employees? I'm sure you do manage a lot of, staff in your companies. And what type of leadership do you believe in? What has been the most challenging situation you have ever had dealing with your staff?
Please, I like that to be more specific, yes.
Okay,
yes.
so I think she wanted to know how you are as a boss, how you deal with your employees, and the most challenging situation you faced with an employee.
Okay, now I already answered before, I would like my staff to tell how I am with them rather than me telling how I'm.
So pick someone, I will go and ask them.
So I've got my senior managers here, so maybe they can answer. Mr. Rao, maybe? Rao is the Director of Global Operations, or Saad.
Okay.
To tell something about Shaji is something. Okay. No, it's okay. No, I'm not afraid of him. I'm just a very charismatic man, a very, very courageous guy, I would say. Okay, very courageous, charismatic, never gives up. Huh? Whatever, even if it's going to fail, no, let it fail. Let us see what will happen. Let's take the risk. He's a man who takes risks and has been successful just taking risks. There's one more thing what I have to say is that I would like to say something, yeah.
Oh, you came prepared.
No, I just want to ask him a question. She already asked the question. Okay. Actually, I want to ask him what he wants to, what he looks at from an employee. What he looks at from an employee. What he wants an employee to do. Yeah, expects from an employee. That's one question. Another question I want is, what exactly excites him in life and also in business? What excites him in life?
We'll add to that. When is he getting his bonus? He wants
to
add that too.
Let me deal with the ladies. How I feel about my employees is truly I feel they're family, part of the family. I feel responsible about them. I feel that we need to take care of their needs, both emotional and material, both. That's very important. And then the very success of the company and the growth is all because our people who are with us need to feel they own the business. We need to make them as the stakeholders, basically. That's the feeling, and I think we try and continue with that as much as possible. Now, your second question, now I think, let me explain. Now, we as an organization, right, have empowered our managers and the directors almost totally. So the day-to-day problems and the issues which come in, they really have the authority and the ability both to solve. So that gets solved, which is a regular situation. But then you do have sometimes situations where your top talent wants to leave, and that's a challenging situation for you, because you don't want your talent to go. And that's where we get involved, either me or my son or my wife at a senior level, and then sit down one-on-one and say, okay, let's talk. Is there something that we can value you? Then yes, please stay. But then if you're not able to give the value the market has for you, then it's only fair we let the person go and let the person grow. So that's been the philosophy. And I think that is so far worked for us. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.